All right, you ready?
Ready.
Let's do it.
What's up, guys and gals? Welcome to episode 54. That's episode 54 of the What Makes Us Human podcast. Right here is John Lindeman, and over there is J.R. Parks. J.R., how are you?
I'm doing well. Unfortunately, I watched the Braves lose another game earlier this afternoon, but other than that, it's been pretty good.
It's kind of weird sometimes to do this intro when we've been talking for like 50 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm like, how are you?
yeah. We sat down and got off on a tangent, and
Yeah.
yeah, that was 45 minutes ago.
Yeah. And then a cotangent and then a sign. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about a bunch since we've sat down.
Yep.
Yes. Our esteemed producer, Hannah, is with us today. Hannah, how are you?
Tired,
Tired.
but here.
Tired. Now, Hannah is sporting a shirt that's burgundy in color. Says no farm, no foul, and it's got a big old chicken in between no farm and no foul. Now, is that your new logo that you've been designing?
No, but it's in honor of the fact that we sold, 15 dozen eggs last week?
Yep.
Dang.
Yep. It was a good week for selling eggs.
I'm proud of my chickens.
Man, them girls are putting eggs out, ain't they?
Yep.
They tired too.
Wow. Let's see. 12 times 12 is 144 plus that's 180 eggs.
Yep.
Wow. That's a lot of eggs.
Yep.
So people eating a lot of breakfast around your area?
I guess we had one guy that bought 4 dozen, and I couldn't figure out why one person wanted 4 dozen eggs.
Is he single?
Kind of.
To give to his family.
Maybe he gives them to the homeless.
And yeah, another lady who told me, "Hey, I go through 2 dozen eggs a week, so just call me when you got more."
Okay.
So
Very nice.
it was other than that, it was mostly, "Hey, we'll take a dozen or we'll take 2 dozen." It was a little more one-off kind of things. But
Now, how long can Henrietta hen keep popping these boogers out?
it depends on the breed of chicken. The ones that are like bred to lay eggs, so they lay basically an egg a day.
Okay.
They'll lay for a couple years and either stop laying or die.
How many chickens do you have?
11 right now.
Well, them girls putting out some eggs.
So-
I hear you, girls. Wow.
But
Do you have a rooster?
we do not.
No rooster.
No,
Okay.
no unsolicited baby chicks.
Yeah, what do they call pullets? Is that what you call a baby chick?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, at least baby female chicks.
Or
Yeah.
pullets?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
What's a
yeah,
baby male chick?
cockerel. But yeah, it's the other ones that are more dual purpose, maybe don't lay quite as many eggs, will live longer and lay eggs for longer.
Okay.
So it's kind of I guess it's if you get more, you get them for fewer years or whatever. But
Now, do you ever
True.
come home and get a hankering for chicken and look at one of the girls and say, "Oh, this is the day"?
they're too valuable right now. When they stop laying, they can go in the freezer, but
Okay.
they're too valuable right now.
Okay. All right.
No, but every time I go fishing, I want sushi afterwards. Or when I go to an aquarium, I want sushi afterwards.
Sushi, huh? I don't do sushi. I've tried many times, but yeah. Well, good for you guys. That's excellent. That's good. Are you gonna keep scaling up?
We'll see. It's the chicken world is weird right now with the avian flu thing going on.
Oh man, it's unprecedented.
So
Yeah, the avian flu in the fowl world is really bad.
it might be a good idea for us to pick up a few in the fall or something, but we'll see how it goes.
I was listening to one of Stephen Ranella's mini meat eater podcasts out there. Shout out to Stephen Ranella. If you ever want to get on here, Steve, we'd love to have you. And they were talking about the avian flu. It might have been on Cal Cunningham's weekly review that he does. But yeah, the avian flu is like really tearing through. They're really watching that.
Yeah, it could be really bad. We noticed eggs at the store were like $3 a dozen now. And yeah, that was like a cheap grocery store. And so both eggs and chicken could really go out of sight because when they find it, they have to kill the whole flock. So
Yeah.
at times they're killing, thousands.
Thousands. That's sad.
So
Now, do you ever have a raccoon or something get in and kill one of your chickens or something?
Yeah, last spring we had our first instance of that. We picked up 6 chicks, and when they were big enough to go outside, but not big enough to be with the other chickens, we had kind of have them separated out, and something got in and killed 4 of them.
Oh,
So
You shot
Fox.
It's trying to get into the.
yeah, I shot a possum one day, one night that was trying to get in.
Okay.
They won't really mess with the chickens so much as they'll eat the eggs.
right. Fox in the hen house.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, our neighbor down the road lost 20 chickens to foxes.
Dang, really?
So
Wow. Foxes are slick. You don't really see them, but they're out there.
yeah, it can be a problem.
They're sly, like a fox. Yep. Well, what are we talking about today? Are we talking about chickens
We are not, although you wouldn't know it from the last 6 minutes of conversation.
or eggs? No. Foxes? No. What are we talking about today, Jared?
We are talking about Santa Anna's leg.
This is a good one. This is up there with cereal to me.
I threw this topic out at John last week when we finished up recording last week's episode, and he just kind of looked at me like I had 3 heads.
Yep. It rang a little bit of a bell. I had watched something on. Is the History Channel still a thing?
I think it's still a thing, but I don't know that they show history. I don't know. I
Okay.
haven't watched it.
It's like
We don't have
MTV.
cable, so
Oh, me neither. Haven't had cable in years. But I think way back on a vacation. See, we got rid of cable way back, and we would go on vacation, and I found Deadliest Catch on vacation, and also the History Channel. I think I had seen a little something about Santa Anna's leg and
All right.
the state of Illinois and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
yeah, this is one that I had this vague. The reason it ended up on our list of topics, I think, is because I have this vague memory of listening to a podcast where they talked about it.
Oh,
But then I went looking for said podcast,
couldn't
and
find
I
it.
couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So I may have imagined that. I'm not sure where I originally heard the story of Santa Anna's leg. Now
Memory's a funny thing.
it is.
We'll have to do one on memory if we don't forget.
It could have been something I read a random passing article about, and somehow my brain went, "Oh, that was a podcast you listened to."
Right.
Yeah, it's hard telling. Who is Santa Anna, John?
Oh gosh. Well,
At least we can get into detail, but at least as far as that, the average person might know who he
okay.
is.
Well, Santa Anna lived during a crazy, crazy time. I believe he's born in 1797.
Yeah, you're right. 1794. Excuse me.
Oh, close. All right. That was almost a boom, but no. So he's born right at the turn of the 1800s there, and so he was around for a lot of action. So let me say this. I did think about this. We have to be careful because I've heard it said that history done studied wrong. History studied in the incorrect way is you taking the time you're living in and projecting it on what you're looking at.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the wrong way to study history. So let me say this about this fellow.
It's kind of like in college where we were told to read a story or short story or whatever, and then the teacher basically asked us what we thought about it,
Right,
and it's like, no, what we should be trying to get to is what was the author getting across.
right. Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't be reading our ideas into something that was written 50 years ago, 100 whatever
Yeah.
period of time.
So within 8 minutes, we've gone from homegirl chickens laying a buku of eggs to the great postmodern debate on how to interpret anything from the Constitution to Holy Writ.
Welcome to What Makes Us Human
That's
podcast.
right, baby. That's what makes us human. Wow. Somewhere somebody is screaming at their radio either yes, 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 or lots of bad words. So let me say this about Santa Anna. He had a really long name, like 9 different names all rolled into one. So we'll call him Santa Anna.
You want me to read the whole name?
Sure, but you got to do it. You got to do it right. Like if you're gonna say hello in Russian, you can't say Zdravstvuyte. You gotta say Zdravstvuyte. You know what I mean? So with the accent, here we go.
I don't know that I can do it with the accent.
Okay.
Antonio de Padua,
No accent.
Maria Severino Lopez de Santa Anna y Perez de Lebrón.
Oh, this guy missed the SAT because he was filling in the bubbles for his name while everybody else was taking the SAT. All right. So let me tell you about Santa Anna, folks. All right. We live in a time where a person picks a side of the fence and then presses on the issues of the day from that side of the fence until they die. And they, I think, who was it? Christopher Lash, the author Christopher Lash, that said propaganda is keeping the masses in a constant state of panic.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good way to express what we're living in. So, be it Barack Obama, Donald J. Trump, I was going to throw in Ross Perot, but I don't know if he would fit into that. But you see individuals who they're on one side and be danged, they ain't ever going to leave that side, much less extend a hand over the fence. You know what I mean? To try to come to some sort of agreement because they're on their side. Now, Santa Anna, he didn't care about the views of his side. He just wanted power.
Yeah. Throughout his life,
Flippity floppity, flippity floppity.
yeah, he would support a conservative government, and then the next time around, he'd support a liberal government, whatever he thought could get him ahead.
Yep.
And he wasn't much of a politician. He wasn't a very good politician.
He was a dictator.
Yes, and he was a pretty good military leader.
Yep.
And when he did best politically was when he essentially ruled as a military leader.
Yep.
But as far as actually like, he didn't really, even when he was president of Mexico multiple times, and actually found reports that gave different numbers for the number of times he was president.
Yeah.
But each time, he really wasn't even interested as much in the actual, when he was first elected, he didn't want it. He went to his estate and let the vice president kind of run things until the vice president messed it all up, and then he came in as the savior.
So in your college analogy or metaphor, what he would have said is, "What'd you think of the book, guys?" And then as soon as you start to say it, he'd be like The Rock in wrestling and slam his fist on the table and say, "It doesn't matter what you think of the book, but I wrote it," even if he didn't.
Okay.
That's exactly how that would have rolled. Even though everybody in the class knows he didn't write the book.
I thought you were going to say he would agree with you until it looked like you were becoming popular and people were agreeing with you, and then he would oppose you.
Okay, that would work too.
So
that might be better.
That's definitely what he did with various political leaders through this tumultuous time in Mexican history.
Ooh, man. Buckle up, everybody.
So we're not going to get into all of the details of his military or political career.
Right.
Just because it's a lot.
But we can talk about the pastry war a little bit.
We can. Okay. That relates to this directly.
All right, Cinnabon. It gets bloody at Cinnabon.
Suffice to say, he started his military career at 16 years old.
Ripe old age of 16.
When he joined the Fijo de Veracruz Infantry Regiment. And he essentially worked his way up. He was always looking for opportunities to advance himself.
Yep.
Get himself more power.
Yep.
And he worked his way up to the point that, eventually he's a general putting down the seemingly constant rebellions that Mexico is facing during this time. So he would work for the government, putting down a rebellion, and then when the people turned against the president at the time, he would lead a revolt against the government. And it was just kind of constant back and forth with him.
Constant.
But if there's one thing that our probably mostly American listeners associate with Santa Anna, it is the Alamo.
Yep.
So Texas had a tumultuous relationship with Mexico when they were part of Mexico. Because they felt like, essentially, it was a lot like the arguments made for the American Revolution. Hey, we're paying all these taxes to you and you're offering us nothing in return. We have no say. We're not getting any services. During a time of upheaval, Texas declares, its independence. It's leaving Mexico. And it wasn't the only one. And a lot of Mexican states declared independence during this time. Santa Anna leads a force to go bring Texas back, basically force Texas back into Mexico. They fight at the Alamo, and most are probably familiar with the story where they kind of hunt. They trap them at the Alamo, and they kill everyone. I didn't know prior to this because I'd never really looked into the Alamo in detail. But I mean, it wasn't just like they killed them in battle. It was like after the fact, like executions.
Yep.
He did the same thing at the Battle of Goliad, also in Texas.
But worse, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more people. All of these things, the Battle at the Alamo, the Battle of Goliad, allowed General Houston and his Texas forces a time to coalesce and prepare. And they completely routed Santa Anna's much larger army at the Battle of San Jacinto on the 21st of April, 1863. And this is the one where the Texans supposedly shouted, "Remember Goliad, remember the Alamo."
So Goliad is in 1836. Yeah. And then this is San Jacinto is in 63, right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
The day after the Battle of San Jacinto, which is in April 1836, they find General Santa Anna dressed in a dragoon private's uniform, hiding in a marsh.
Just chilling.
So they force him, because he's technically president of Mexico at this time, they force him under duress to sign over recognize the independent Republic of Texas. But while this is happening, in Mexico City, a new government declared that Santa Anna was no longer president, and therefore the treaty was null and void. And the Mexican Congress also rejected the treaty.
The tweet. They rejected the tweet. Boy, if Twitter was around for Santa Anna, oh man.
You went to Twitter. I was thinking Tweety Bird
Oh,
when I said it. So
straight to the news, Jack.
Santa Anna goes back and forth between exile and returning as this great hero in Mexico, and it's just this constant, back and forth until the Pastry War. What do you know about the Pastry War?
So the Pastry War is basically a result of French patriots, I guess.
Would you mean
French
expats?
French expats. What did I say? Patriots.
Yeah.
French expats that are living in Mexico, especially in and around Mexico City, and basically not getting along, having some confrontations with the Mexican civilians, the citizens, and because of a failure of government and a lack of structure within the Mexican government, they're not getting paid for, let's say, like in today's time, maybe broken windows, small events of rioting, scuffles amongst people, fights in bars, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're not getting retribution from the Mexican government for basically huge bills that are coming their way for their businesses.
Yeah. They see in their view, the Mexican government's not doing enough to stop this. And then they're not, when they say, well, because you're not doing enough to stop this, you need to pay for what I lost.
Private property.
And the Mexican government says no. So the reason why it's the Pastry War, a pastry chef known as Monsieur, I don't know.
Monsieur Remontel.
Yes. Lodged a complaint with the French king that in 1832,
Louis Philippe.
yes, in 1832, Mexican officers looted his shop He demanded 6,000 pesos as reparations for the damage, even though his shop was only valued at less than 1,000 pesos.
Now I see where he demanded 60,000.
60,000. Sorry, is that what I was saying?
Yeah, 60,000.
60,000 pesos, yes. So, in view of his complaint and other similar complaints, and the thing about
His was the straw that broke the camel's
yes,
bun.
the thing about Mexico City that I didn't realize until fairly recently, and it was actually talking about food in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Mexico City was an international city going way back. Like there is, Turkish influence that goes back to, before the time we're talking about now. There is Lebanese, there's all kinds of different European countries that have influenced Mexico. Mexico City is an international. So there's a lot of French citizens
Yeah.
living in Mexico, and particularly in and around Mexico City.
So when Quetzalcoatl landed on Tenochtitlan, is a big deal.
Yep.
And you see that on the flag.
So ultimately, because of this, the French Prime Minister demanded that the government of Mexico pay 600,000 pesos in damages
This is getting better and better, baby.
for not just for the pastry chef's complaint, but kind of for all of these problems. But this was a massive sum because at the time, the typical daily wage in Mexico City was about 1 peso
Yep.
a day.
That's a lot.
Yep. Mexico said no.
The Mexican president, Anastasio Bustamante, said no.
So the King of France ordered a blockade of Mexican ports
Yep.
in the Gulf of Mexico.
Led by Rear Admiral Charles Baudin.
And not just a blockade, but they are to bombard the Mexican fortress of San Juan de Ula and seize the city of Veracruz.
Yep, that's a big deal right there. Seizing Veracruz that's going to hurt.
Yep.
Most important, one of their Gulf Coast ports.
Yep. So December 1838, they capture Veracruz, and Mexico declares war on France.
It's on.
In fact, the blockade got so bad that Mexican citizens started smuggling through the port at Corpus Christi, then part of the Republic of Texas,
Not good.
to the point that the newly appointed Republic of Texas was concerned that France might attack them
Right, yep.
to stop this. It got so bad that the U.S. sent the schooner Woodbury to help the French in their blockade to try to prevent them from having a need to go after Corpus Christi or any American ports.
Thinking that's 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Yep. So Santa Anna comes out of his retirement, looks at the defenses in Veracruz, and tells the government, I can beat them. They gave him an order to fight the French by any means necessary. And he led them against the French and fought them at the Battle of Veracruz.
1838.
Yep. This is where Santa Anna's leg and hand were wounded by grape shot.
Yes.
So, this is it's basically like a shotgun shell, but cannon sized.
Yep.
It's a lot of little pieces of shot.
In the left leg.
Yeah, and it damaged his ankle so bad that they had to amputate a good portion of his leg. He has his leg treated to full military honors, paraded through the streets of Mexico City, and he really uses this to catapult himself back into power. The hero of Veracruz.
And his leg is buried.
His leg is buried.
Yep.
Until about a year later, when public sentiment turned against him
Right.
for ruling as a dictator, at which point they dug up his leg and drug it through the streets until there was nothing left of it.
That's so weird.
Yep.
So they can't get a hold of him, so they get a part of his leg that's 6 feet underground and dig it up.
Yep. So because of this, he has a prosthetic wooden and cork leg. During the
So he actually had 2 one for like big time meetings and stuff, and then one for, going to get a bag of chips and a cherry Coke at the house. You know what I'm saying?
He has like he has
He's got a
an
peg
actual
leg and then
prosthetic cork and wood leg, and then he has a peg leg.
yeah.
So during the Mexican-American War, during the Battle of Cerro Gordo, members of the Illinois State, it wouldn't have been National Guard yet, I don't think.
No.
It would have been militia, I suppose, state militia. Capture Santa Anna flees in such a hurry that they manage to get his prosthetic leg. They capture his prosthetic leg as a prize of war, prize of battle.
Along with like a tent stake, a sash, and something else. There's a couple things they get.
Yep.
The prize is the really nice leg,
Yep.
fake leg.
His other leg, the peg leg, was also captured by the 4th Illinois
Oh, okay.
Regiment and was reportedly used by the soldiers as a baseball bat.
Awesome. Okay.
It is currently on display at the home of the Illinois Governor Richard J. Oglesby, who served in the regiment.
So Doubleday would have been proud.
His prosthetic cork and wooden leg remains as a war trophy to this day in the Illinois State Military Museum.
I would
But
love
it
to
is
see.
no longer on display.
Oh, really?
Yep.
No longer on display.
Yep.
Why?
It's in the last couple decades, it's really become a point of international politics and even national politics.
Well, now the Texans want it.
Texans want it, but they're not even. It's not even clear what their claim to it is.
But who wants it internationally?
Mexico wants it,
Okay.
and a group of students in the U.S. want it to give to Mexico.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like the French wanted it.
No.
Okay, all right.
Mexico wants it,
I got you.
and in fact, in 1942, a bill was introduced by the state legislature of Illinois to return the leg to Mexico
Oh.
as an act of goodwill. So they passed a non-binding resolution to return it, but the National Guard denied the transfer.
Really?
To me, that was the most mind-boggling thing of this whole, where the state legislature was like, yeah, return it, and the military was like, no.
Wow.
It was a non-binding resolution, but still. It still resides in the Illinois State Military Museum in Springfield.
In a closet or something.
Yep,
Not on display.
not on display.
Now remember, folks, this is his fake leg.
Yes, his real one was buried with military honors and then dug up and dragged through the city
Till it was...
till there was nothing left of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. I wonder what it looked like, depending on how long it had been buried. I wonder.
It was about a year it had been buried, but
Ugh.
it was wounded in battle, and yeah, I mean, probably gangrenous or whatever. Cause
It was nasty.
So-
You know how nasty that must have been?
Yep.
Sick. Okay.
So yeah, when I first came across this, I was just absolutely fascinated by the idea that Santa Anna's leg is in a museum in Illinois.
Yeah. Did you see pictures of it?
I did.
Yeah. So it's weird.
It's one of those weird things in history that's like, wait, how did that happen? They took his leg as a war trophy, and it's in a museum.
Yeah. To this day.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, Santa Anna continues to go back and forth between being hated in Mexico and being the savior of Mexico. Eventually, he's exiled, spends time in Cuba, ends up in New York.
Yeah. New York. Yeah.
And when he's in New York, he has a chicle brought to him.
Oh, here we go. We're
And,
gonna talk about this. Nice.
And him and the guy who was responsible for trying to help him introduce this to try to make some money as a replacement for rubber,
Yep.
Mr. Adams, instead basically invent chewing gum.
So Santa Anna wanted it to be a tire repair kind of thing.
Yeah, rubber replacement.
Yeah, for a hole in your tire.
Yep.
With tires were way more fussy back then, and yeah, they added some flavoring, and so that's the
Because they were chewing
right?
on it anyway.
Yeah, they're chewing on it anyway.
And yeah, so Adams is like, yeah, add some flavoring and we have a chiclet.
The chiclet, yep. And then of course, what's his face in America? Wrigley goes now. Wrigley does juicy fruit, right?
Wrigley does a bunch of them.
Yeah, and juicy fruit is not really a fruit; it's just a made-up flavor
Yeah.
that they just happen to nail, and people love juicy fruit.
Yep.
I like juicy fruit.
I haven't had juicy fruit in a long time, but yeah, Wrigley does Big Red and Double Mint and Spearmint.
I like Big Red.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's he tried to get rich off of it. It didn't work out.
He was married. Santa Ana was married twice. Attended neither wedding. Yep. But Hannah just looked at me like I'm crazy. So both marriages were solely for financial reasons. He loved money, so and he burned through it, and then he would marry a rich, younger woman, and didn't he never attended either one of his own weddings.
Yep. He was eventually pardoned and allowed to return to Mexico by the president at the time, which he spent basically the last year of his life. By that point, he was, I believe, blind and deaf and could barely walk. But he returned to Mexico and died.
What year was that?
That was
1870 something.
1876. He was 82 years old.
Wow, he lived a long time for back then.
Yep.
You know.
Yes and no. We've had a discussion around the fact that the idea that people didn't live as long is kind of skewed by
Yeah,
the number of infants dying and all of that.
that's true.
Like,
Yeah,
you still have people living to 70 and 80 and whatever, but
yeah. But for a soldier, he lived a while.
oh yeah, for somebody who lost his leg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because you got the gold. You lose a leg, man. You got that golden hour. Of course, it was taken surgically.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not like it blew his whole leg off or anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is Santa Anna's leg, currently in a museum in Illinois.
I enjoyed the pastry war thing. I kind of went down a couple of rabbit holes with the pastry war. Very interesting stuff. I had no idea up until this week or so about how much French Mexico interplay there really was back then. So that's really interesting. I learned a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is interesting though that the French government would get involved to basically to starting a war with that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it would be like a U.S. city gets burned, and Turkey is upset that some of their immigrants had their shops looted, and
Yeah.
Turkey declares war on us, kind of thing.
So I think it goes to show how often this kind of thing had been happening. Had to.
Possibly, it could also just be France was a lot bigger, and Mexico was constantly infighting, so maybe they just saw it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
They're only going to get into it because they think they can win.
Right. We should do one on the Zimmerman note at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. I was gonna say, I hope your girls back home can continue laying lots of eggs. We started with that. So hey, is it true that if you put a bunch of chickens in a chicken house, if you start that you can fool them and make them lay an extra egg by turning the lights off for a little while and then turning them back on?
No.
It's got two answers.
You can. So they really want I think it's 12 hours of light a day to lay. So
Okay.
in the wintertime, if you don't add artificial light, they'll kind of stop laying and won't lay as much.
Okay.
So you can kind of affect that. But ultimately, it's very rare for a chicken to lay more than one egg a day. So you can't trick them with lights to get them to lay 2 a day or anything like that.
Okay.
So you can make them think it's daylight longer, so they keep laying.
But they're hard to trick. All right. Well, next week is episode 55.
5. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do Sammy Hagar and a song. I'm kidding.
Hopefully you got a good topic for us.
Yes. I will tell you momentarily.
All right. All right. Well, you can find us on social media at WMUH Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We've started putting the audio from our episodes up on YouTube as slowly as I can get them up there. It's taking longer than I expected, but we'll get them there. Last week's is up there.
Awesome.
So you can definitely find that. You can email us wmuhpodcast@gmail.com. If you have seen Santa Anna's leg, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, gosh. Yes, we would love. Which means you probably live in Illinois
I feel like it's one of those things that,
or had a nerdy vacation.
because Route 66 starts around south of Chicago, I feel
Okay.
like that's one of those roadside attractions that would be advertised.
Yeah.
Me
Me and you would
took
stop
Route
for that.
66, back in the day.
We would stop for that,
Oh,
wouldn't
100%.
we? 100%.
If there was a billboard that said, "See Santa Ana's leg," I'm stopping.
Yeah, we're stopping for that.
Like, what is this? I gotta see this.
Yeah, and
Yep.
now we know what it is.
Yep. All right. We'll see you next week.
Oh, rate, like, and subscribe.
Absolutely.
See you next week, peeps.